Okay, now let's connect our login system to the database. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a connection file just to test the connection. And we can reuse this connection file later on. So I'm going to go to File, New, and I'm going to create, let me see, I'll go ahead and File, Save As here. I'm going to save it in my htdocs in my XAMPP folder on the C drive. And I'm going to call this dbc.php. So dbc stands for Database Connector. And that's all this thing's going to do. And in here I'm going to go ahead and put some PHP tags to start it off. And then all of our files in here, or all of the stuff in here, will be PHP. I'm just going to write echo hello world to see if this thing is working. And I've saved that. Now if I go ahead and open up a new tab in my browser, if I type in localhost/dbc.php, it should say hello world if my browser's working. And it's not working, so I'm going to go see why, and it's probably because my web server is not working. So I'm going to open up my control panel, my XAMPP control panel, and I can see that my Apache web server and my MySQL is not started yet. So I'll go ahead and start them. Now they're green. Go ahead and go to my web browser and refresh it. Now it says hello world. So I know that my DBC page is connected to my web browser, and all I have to do is now create the connection. Now, a website that I use all the time to learn about web programming is W3 Schools. So if I go to w3schools.com, you'll see that they teach HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and they really do a wonderful job. I really like this website. I'm going to click on PHP, Learn PHP, and then on the side nav here, they have a part about databases. And so I want to go to this MySQL Connect portion, and I'm going to scroll down, and it talks about different ways that we can connect to a database. One is called the MySQLi object-oriented method. There's a MySQLi procedural method and a PDO method. The easiest one to learn, in my experience, is the MySQLi procedural. So I'm going to use a variant of this that I think is even easier to learn. Okay, so in this procedural method, we just create a connection. We're going to create a $con, that stands for connection, and that's going to equal MySQLi underscore connect. So that's the method, so it's going to have some parentheses at the end of it. Then we'll end it with a semicolon. And so we're saying that there's something called $con, and it equals MySQLi connect method, whatever is returned from that. And what we want to return from this is a connection to our database. To connect to our database, we need to specify the name of the server. So in this case, my computer is the server, so I'm going to put localhost, and that will allow my PHP page to connect to myself. The next thing I have to do is put my username, and I'm going to put root, which is the most powerful user that there is, and generally you don't want to ever use root, but for testing purposes I'm going to go ahead and use that. Normally you'd want to create another account that has reduced privileges, and the reason is because if somebody was to hack my web server with it being root, logged in as root, then they could use my web server to delete my databases or do something worse. So the next thing I want to put in here is the password. I'm going to put the password as SP. That stands for super password. Again, this is just in testing, and this password has not been set yet, so it's not going to work. I'm going to have to go into XAMPP Studio and change the password to SP later, just in a few minutes. The last thing I want to do is I want to specify the database that we're going to connect to. I created in video number 1 a database called members. So I'm going to go ahead and put that there, members. Okay, so now that's what we call a connection string, and try to get it all in one line. So that one line allows us to connect to our server. Okay, so to change the password, I'm going to type into my browser localhost.xampp, and I'm going to go to security. And remember, I'm changing the password of the database. I'm going to go down to this link here, localhost security, XAMPP security PHP. Notice that it tells me that the MySQL admin user root has no password, so that's unsecure. I'm going to go ahead and change that so the root will have the password of SP, super password, SP. And then I'll press this password changing button. It should say change password. It's probably written by somebody who spoke a different language. It didn't like it. It says it must be 15 characters or more. I'm sorry, at least 3 characters, but not more than 15. So I'm going to change it to secret password. Okay, so it says the root password has changed, yay. But now I've got to go to my web application here, my PHP page, and change it. So instead of SP, it's going to be secret password. All right. Now this should allow me, or my web application, to connect to my SQL server. Okay, so once I connect, I then want to just evaluate the connection to see if it worked or not. And if it worked, I'm going to check to see if it didn't work. If it didn't work, I'm going to say error and throw an error. If it did work, I'll say connection successful right now, but normally I just say great and not say anything. But I'm going to say if the connection failed, then the program should execute what's in these curly brackets. There's the end if note there at the end. So if it's not successful, if it fails, execute what's in here. And the way that I can tell it if it's not successful is just by putting exclamation and then my connection. So just copy and paste that there. So if there's no connection, then execute what's in here. And what I'm going to say is I'm going to say die. So I'm going to call the die method. The die tells the program or the PHP script to stop running. So it's not going to go down here and run any code. It'll stop right where it is right here. Now I can have it do something, print something out to screen. And so I'm going to say connection failed. And then I will put a dot, which is a concatenator, and I will put the MySQLi connection error by calling that method. So I put some parentheses at the end of that should say ERROR. Okay. So that'll figure out what the error was and print it out. If things are successful, then I'm going to echo connection or connected successfully. Now if I save this and go to my web browser, and I want to make sure that I'm going to localhost/dbc.php, if it worked, it'll say connected successfully. If it didn't work, you'll get some error. Now, there's a lot of different errors that you can create. For example, if I was to go up here, seen a lot of people put this, go with this default, they get this Lego thing. If they save that, they will get an error. Well, it just died. It didn't even say connection failed. If I get rid of that, another common error is to misspell something in here. In that case, it'll say undefined variable. Okay, so that's how we connect. That's the beginning.